Hey guys, and welcome back to my Let's Play of the PlayStation 2 and Wii version of Sonic Unleashed. So after we did all of his mandatory training stuff, it is now time to properly begin the Werehog's true levels. So since we're in a process, we're going to be beginning with its first act, Moonlit Town. And the very first thing we're going to want to do is turn around. So just go back here, and there's a little alleyway that contains an item box. Some of these are right in front of you, others are pretty well hidden. And some item boxes can unlock secret documents which do tell you the locations of other item boxes, and that does include that one. So I think that you mostly find those ones inside some of the special missions. It's not the most helpful thing in the world considering that you actually have to find the item box that contains that document, but I did find them helpful. I found that one through one of the secret documents. They don't tell you that many. I'm not sure how many it actually tells you, and it only tells you them for the night stages. It doesn't tell you, there are no secret documents for the day stages. But they do like to hide them away in the day stages as well. Generally, they are more right in front of you, and the challenge is just making sure you don't go boosting past them. But they do like to hide them away every now and then. Sometimes they might be in crates, sometimes they just require you to take a specific route. But generally the day stages, they are right in front of you, it's just you have to take that specific route. Whereas the Werehog, everything is a bit more hidden. So here we're introduced to Dark Frights. So all of these Dark Gaia spawned. They're the result of when Dark Gaia broke apart and it took upon many different creatures. The first ones we fought that we were seeing in all the tutorials and everything, they're known as nightmares. And now these floating things, which for some reason make bird noises, are called Dark Frights, and they're actually some of the most annoying enemies in the game because despite their size, they are tough. Like they can withstand some punches, whereas later on we're going to be taking out those nightmares in one single hit. Can't do that now because our power isn't high enough. But when we get closer to, well, mostly it'll be in like the post-game stuff that we do. That will be the main time we see it. At the moment, they still take a few hits. These are the nightmares. Again, I can only apologise for the frame drops. I really don't know why. I think it's just because of something about the MP4 export for the whole pod capture. It causes it to lag as it's recording, and for the most part, the recording still plays. The actual end result is still fine. It just does these sort of frame drops every now and then, and they last an unhealthy amount of time. And it means that you may notice the sound is oh so slightly out of sync. I didn't think it was actually major enough to really... Well, you know, I'd have to abandon it and start the game over again, because Sonic Unleashed is an also-save game. I can't just save it to multiple files. But for the most part, it came out fine, and it's only really in this video, which was the last part of the session I did, where you notice it. And even then, it only really becomes a problem towards the end. It's very minor. Hopefully. Tell me otherwise, and then I still can't really do anything. Then we're going to be climbing about. Sometimes the Werehog doesn't like to carry his momentum forwards. It's kind of annoying when that happens, especially if it's over a bottomless pit. Yeah, most of the training stuff we did does take place in the main act, day and night. It's a bit weird when it takes place in Act 2. It's like, what happened? Actually, what happened anyway, even in Act 1? Why did we suddenly go back to the beginning? Lovely view. Lovely moon in the back. Completely whole. It's not blown in half at all. What are you saying? Of course, it's just the other side of the moon. Surely. More like Sega just saying, we don't care. The moon is whole again. So that's something you got to do in quite a few of the Werehog stages. You've got to find 3 keys. Those are exclusive to this version. There's nothing like that in the HD version. So once you find 3 of them, the gate will go down and you can proceed. The Werehog's combat is very, very limited in this version, especially early on. Like, literally, it's just those same 2 combos and the Werehammer. That's all I can do. You can do a few attacks when he's jumping, but you can only do like 3 standard punches or 1 strong attack, which I only really use when I have to ground certain flying enemies later. And this is how I find to be the most efficient way, usually, of taking out Dark Frights, is you just pick them up and throw them into the other Dark Frights. doesn't always work, especially if it's just a bottomless pit around you, because you'll throw them away, they won't die, and they're very slow. So they'll take a while to start coming back over to you. And the dark fights have this sort of charging attack, and it's quite tricky to avoid actually, especially when you're dealing with a lot of them at once. Again, they are actually some of the most annoying enemies in the game. And so this is how the results work, or the ranking works for night stages. You have a time limit, which you're not told. Well, you're not told any of them. There's a time limit you have to beat, a ring quota to make, and a Gaia Force quota to make. So rings and time makes sense. Gaia Force, you get it for defeating enemies. You get it for breaking open certain capsules that don't contain the question marks in them. And when you do collect those question mark ones, the actual item boxes, they'll be replaced with Gaia capsules later on when you revisit the level. And you can also get them by breaking open all of the jars and urns, which you can weirdly break by dashing into them. Only in this version does that happen. It doesn't work in the HD version. I don't know why you can break them by dashing, but I'm not going to complain because I like that feature. Act 2, Moon-Soaked Alleys. Trying to get all of the items in this one and making the time limit is a bit tricky. It's one of the ones that I usually fail at. Thankfully, it didn't happen this time. Again, you can actually, even when going for all the items, you can clear most of these Werehog acts and still have almost 2 minutes on the clock to spare to get the S rank. Now the thing is, each one of those quotas gives you a medal, gives you a sun medal. It will still say stage complete when you've collected all 3 medals and haven't obtained the S rank. So you get the S rank if you get all 3 at once, but you can get the medals individually, and that's what will make it say stage complete. It's not like the day stages where it just is the S rank that you need, because that's purely how it works. So I go back in the house. Thank you. Who lives in that house? That's a tiny house. And here we are, most annoying enemies in the game. Killer bees. They're not dark killer bees or anything like that, they're typical killer bees. These ones aren't too bad. It's later on in the game, almost every enemy gets a stronger variation. And to prove that it's stronger, they are coloured red. Pretty much it. They're slightly bigger, I think, but generally they are coloured red. And they're really, really fast, and they can just dodge out of the way. And I swear, the hit detection on these guys is weird. And it can be like that in the dark fights as well, but here especially, it's like I swear I am punching them, and Sonic's arms are just going right through them. It's really, really annoying when that happens. And there are objects that you can try and throw at them sometimes. The problem is that when they're swarming around you, Sonic may accidentally try and grab one of them. And if he does that, they will instantly charge at him. Well, not instantly. It gives you like a split second that when Sonic is in the midst of a recovery animation because he couldn't pick it up. So when he's done with that, they then charge at him, and you're going to get hurt. You have to stun them in order to pick them up. And the move I just got at the end of the last level is the Wereclaw. So when Sonic is running, he doesn't have to be dashing, just when he's running. If you hit any button, it could be square, circle, or triangle, he'll perform this sort of move where he puts his hands together and then slashes them outwards. It's a move I'm kind of mixed on, because on one hand, it is great for stunning enemies, and I can then just proceed to punch them, especially the Dark Fright and the Killer Bees. On the other hand, I wish it was something he only did when he dashed, but Sonic will also just do it when he's running. And that means it's almost always going to be the first attack you do when you don't want to, because Sonic goes quite some distance when he does it. And it does very little damage, it's just a stun maneuver. Some of these abilities are exclusive to the HD version, that includes the Wereclaw. The little blue bar underneath your health, that's your unleashed meter. I'm not going to be showing it off in this act, because at this point in the game there's really no use for it. It's not really until we get to the final act of the second, no, even that, the third bunch of night stages where I really find it to start becoming useful, when we get the toughest enemies in the game. But here it's not particularly useful, and the bar is at this point still tiny. It's going to grow much bigger later on, as is our health. But at this stage it's tiny, and when you use Unleashed mode, which you do by pressing L1 and R1 at the same time, and then Sonic not only becomes stronger, But in this version, it doesn't happen in the HD version, in this version his moves change. So the way you perform them is still the same, but the actual end result is different. So his standard combat is exactly the same. But what we also get is, instead of the Wereclaw, I think it's called the Wererush? I'm not sure, I don't remember all the names. And he's sort of just like, his hands become orange, and he sort of just does like multiple quick punches at once. It's a standard move in the HD version, where it's pretty much the move I always use, because it's the most effective one of taking out enemies. In the HD version, I find. It delivers multiple punches, it's pretty strong. But it's pretty much just a stronger Wereclaw in this version. And the other moves, some of his other moves will change as well. We'll be seeing them as we unlock more moves for the Werehog. The moves are generally the first things we'll be unlocking. We'll get our power up a bit, we'll get our health up a bit, we'll get our unleashed up a bit. But for the most part, early on in the game, it's moves. You mostly just unlock them firstly one after each other almost. Or there might be one of the other things in between. The final move is unlocked much later on. There is a big gap between the second to last and the last move. And the last move is by far the strongest, so it makes sense. It's really the big problem here is just how limited the Werehog is. You get so many combos in the HD version. Admittedly, I don't use those combos because I find that the game's button inputs in the HD version to be a bit on the delayed side, which has caused me many deaths, especially in the day stages actually. I find it to be pretty bad. So I don't really use most of the combos in the HD version, but still, there are so many that you can do, and if you can pull them off successfully, they are really, really effective. But in this version, it's just the same 5-hit combo. At the moment it's only 3 hits, but we will later on, I think at the end of this level actually, we will unlock something that allows us to deliver both, I think, an extra hit and then a final hit, which also stuns enemies. So these guys are where the Wereclaw can come in handy, but you're still got to make sure they're in the path anyway. But here, I swear, I am punching these guys and nothing happens. And it's like they slightly tilt their bodies upwards that allows them to move out of the way, which is still admittedly better than the HD version, where they actually, if you try and punch them, they can hover up into the air and then you can't hit them. And they will keep doing that over and over again until you throw something at them, which is very annoying if there isn't anything to throw. I hate these guys in both versions. They are my least favourite enemy in the game. Dark Frights aren't much better, really. But at least in the HD version, I can also use them as ammo to actually activate certain switches. So that's another little hidden item. That's usually the one that costs me the time. That costs me the time bone. Well, it's not a bonus. It costs me the time. The target time for this one is 7 minutes. I think 7 minutes is generally the most common one, but there are some that are 8. Some 8's quite rare. There's quite a few that are 9. Some that are 6. And then there's one in Shamar, which is 10, and then the final Werehog stage in Eggman Land is 11 minutes. Again, though, even though that's the final stage, really, really easy. You can beat it in around 9. It's like the time limits are, for the most part, no problem whatsoever. Especially if you're not going for items, then they really are no trouble. Again, there's really only a few, and it's just when you're going for items that they can be problematic. This being one, there's one in Spagonia that can be a problem. One in Jungle Joyride that gave me a bit of trouble. Not so much for the items, it's just because of the stage layout. I really don't like that level. But we won't be seeing that until we get to Adabat. So now we've obtained our little extra abilities. It's our first combo finisher. One of 3. So this will make Sonic do a 4th attack, and then that will be followed up by a 5th one. If you're doing the round attacks, he sort of just smacks his hands together, which looks quite painful. They both look quite painful. And then if it's the forward attack, he sort of does this double punch. The smacking attack stuns enemies. The punches, I don't think it stuns them, but it sends them flying, and it will make them lie on the ground for a bit. I find that to actually be quite useful against the killer bees if they're in front of me, which most of the time they're not. But it also makes Sonic's hands huge, and they're already pretty big in size, but it really does make them huge. See, Sonic does have white fur on his hands. It's not just the Sonic movie. He actually does have white fur on his hands. I've only just realised this now, because I used to really hate that. I mean, we don't know if that is Sonic's final design. The fact that we've barely heard anything about this movie gives me no faith in it, but I will probably still end up seeing it. Who knows, this video might be very outdated, as might the title of the previous episode. I mean, this thing is pretty heavy. So this is it's a smacking ability that would stun something normally, and then you just saw the punch ability. I generally hit square just because most games I play require me to hit square to attack. So I don't tend to think about circle. In fact, for years, I didn't even realise that circle was an attack. Even though it tells you at the beginning of the missions, and there's an instruction manual, but again, I'm a kid, why the hell would I want to read? So I didn't actually bother hitting circle for many years. And then I was reading through it and I was like, oh, you can hit circle. I also kind of wish I knew that for the final boss, because that could have saved me some trouble as well. But we'll get to that when we get to the final boss. So this stage is called Hill Beneath Starry Skies. Let's face it, a lot of these names aren't very original. In fact, it's not until we get to one in Jungle Joyride where I think they started to run out of ideas, because it's simply called Starry Night. But that is literally the name. It's just Starry Night. So it's taken you until the 6th continent to start calling it that. It's like, really? Werehog's dash does tend to get stuck on certain objects. Sadly, although it can break urns and boxes, it's not an attack. It doesn't actually kill anything, or even damage anything, which is a shame, but that's the way it works. The main problem with the dash in this version is it's so slippery. Because this is the thing. The HD version is really stiff. Sonic is a tank, day and night. Here it's the complete opposite. So when you're in the day stages, you can go from one side of the path to the other, and just from the slightest tilt of the analog stick. And with the Werehog, his dash is really slippery. And honestly, I prefer it this way, mainly just because it can break objects, but in the HD version it's the complete opposite. It's really stiff. Sonic can barely turn when he's dashing in the HD version. You need a lot of space. Whereas here, it's easier, it just means you're going to hover in place for a little bit. And it can break objects, which is really the main reason why this dash is better. And I just find there to be an actual speed increase. Like, the dash is faster in the HD version, but not as much, I don't think. And it's weird. It's behind a wall. That's why you can't see the question mark, but it is an item. When there's a lot of items together, that's actually when I prefer to use the Werehog. When there's a lot of items together. It's like when you're breaking open a load of crates together in Crash Bandicoot. It's quite satisfying breaking them all at once. Even if the sound effect that plays is just a stock smashing sound effect. Which, granted, this game didn't do first. I think Shadow the Hedgehog did it a couple of times. I don't know if any of the other games did, but I know Shadow the Hedgehog did. So this is easily the most, I don't know, Shadow the Hedgehog is pretty combat focused, except it's a different kind of combat. That's guns. Don't bother using Shadow's punches and kicks, they're absolutely useless. Mario's punches and kicks in Super Mario 64 are more useful. The only problem is that this game, it also means that this game is easily the worst, with requiring you to fight a load of enemies in order to proceed. But at the same time, it is for a different gameplay style. You never have to worry about it in the day stages. I think there may be 1 or 2 times, but they're very rare. Colors does it a couple of times. But all you simply have to do is homing attack to the left, homing attack to the right. Do that 2 or 3 times, and then that's it. But generally, the combat is never mandatory. Well, sorry, the combat is always mandatory. But it is also for a completely different gameplay style. So I guess that counts as an excuse. But and you know, they always did have a purpose. You know, they wanted to put emphasis on the power character in Heroes. They wanted to make use of the guns in Shadow. Here, it's because it's basically God of War. That's what it is. It's God of War. In so many ways. This is where we have the big frame drops, by the way, so I apologise to your eyes. It lasts for about half a minute. And, whatever I was just talking about. So now we have a big nightmare here. He says a deep nightmare. That is really what they're called. It's a silly name. The Deep Nightmare. I hate that name. I'm not even sure if I consider it the worst name. When there is an enemy here that's called Big Mother, trust me, that makes sense in context. But Deep Nightmare just sounds... Nightmare is bad enough, but Deep Nightmare just sounds really forced. And Sonic Forces wasn't a thing for another 9 years. That's it. That's our first set of our first set of night stages. So yeah, so for now they're quite short. But wait until we start getting 4 or 5 of these in a row. That's fun. So yeah. So at the moment everything is at level 1. You can skip this, by the way, because it takes forever to grow. It goes so slowly. We're almost there. We're almost there. Come on. There we go. Werehog. Another one I don't tend to use that much. It serves as both a combo finisher, but also an opener. Sort of a combination of the two, really. We've got illustration 26. Illustration 65. Illustrations are the most common. Illustration 67. And we've obtained a tablet fragment adorned with a blue jewel. And that's just because we've unlocked more abilities. So we'll get every time we unlock a new ability, a mission and a potus opens up.
Hey, Tails.
Sonic?
What are you doing out here?
Sonic, is that really you? That's a new look. What happened?
You know me. Never a dull moment.
Want some chocolate?
Thanks. That's some story. I'll bet that means that you turning into that and the planet breaking apart are somehow related.
I need to find Eggman and make him fix this, and fast!
About that, I think I know someone who might know something about what's going on here.
Oh, really?
Professor Pickle over at Spagonia University. I came to this city to gather some data. If we add that to his research findings, we might be able to get to the bottom of all this.
Spagonia. That's a continent over. An easy jog if the planet weren't broken.
No problem. My Tornado 1 will get us there in a flash. Let's get going.
Leave it to you, Tails. Let's get moving.
Now, if you pay real close attention, the emblem at the back of the plane actually says it's called the Tornado 3. It's probably easier to see in the HD version, but the Tornado 1 is actually the Tornado 3. So now Spagonia can be selected, as can Apophis, Apotos, whatever you want to call it. And you actually do fight all of those enemies that are surrounding Tails in the HD version. It's the first level, and they make you fight the toughest enemy in the game, the Titan. Yeah, they were very cruel. The HD version is quite tough. It really is. But anyway, so we've got to try and meet up with Professor Pickle. But things are going to be a bit more difficult. But we shall see that in the next part of Sonic Unleashed SD.